Hey, I'm Noah, and for the past 2 years, my father Vincent and I have taken a deep dive into world events, religion, the spiritual world, and most importantly, Jesus Christ. Come explore these topics with us as we discuss our journeys and what led us on our journeys to begin with. In this podcast, we will attempt to open a can of worms and inevitably open 10 in the process. We hope to be informative, encourage you on your exploration, and share with you the same hope that we have come to know and love. So without further ado, this is Jacob's Ladder, the podcast. All right, so we're back at it again, and, even while you were telling me the ending of, when we were talking that last part of the last podcast, I had things that I was thinking about. They were going through my mind that I want to say, so I'm excited to do this one.
I know. I didn't even plan on that conversation going that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I had something in mind, and we went completely a different direction, but, I'm glad we did.
Yeah, I think it sets us up for future. A lot of times we've been talking so much, we have so many things to say that I think sometimes it can come off convoluted if we just start trying to dive
and sometimes
headfirst into it.
Sometimes it will sound convoluted, and I hope everybody just puts up with it.
Yeah. So
because that's the way our, when you call me up or I call you, it's like,
I mean, we're jumping from one. Sometimes we'll just hit like, oh, did you think about this? And then, boom, to the next
we'll
subject.
We'll work harder at making it flow a little bit better.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Sometimes we just tend to know what each other is thinking. So,
but I'm glad we talked about the things we did, because I'm sure we're going to share more stuff. That we've seen as well. But now I can get back to what that original podcast was going to be about.
Yeah.
And that is looking at things from a different angle. Like, and I know I'm going to repeat myself, but I got to get back to where we were. You were looking for Jesus.
Yeah.
And in the end, you found two Jesus.
Yep. The esoteric Jesus and the profane Jesus. Well, and I use profane in quotes, but I mean the literal Jesus.
Yeah, because we know what the word profane just, it means the physical aspect of something. Yeah.
And then you said you were looking for
I was looking for Satan.
So what did you find?
Well, that's what's weird. You're going down the rabbit hole. I'm going down the rabbit hole, but we're not talking to each other about necessarily these things. I mean, I only see this with hindsight, what has happened. So here I began, as we said before, I began to see patterns. Mm-hmm. I began to see Satan's hand in the matter. I mean, literally. I mean, things of biblical significance is happening in the world. And I'm learning that the controllers, as we said, their belief system is based in theosophy. Mm-hmm. But now, we've talked about this before. There's what you have, quote unquote, the good theosophy.
Yeah.
Mark Passio, ones like that. They believe theosophy is true, but they want to believe it's for the good of man.
Like there's a good side and a bad side of the universe. Mm-hmm. There's two forces that are equal that are battling it out.
But what's happening here? What is going on? And, we talk about these rabbit holes, like you say at the bottom. We talk about the bottom of the rabbit hole and how it comes down to two choices.
Yeah.
What do we mean by that? What do I mean by that? Well, I'm thinking about once you know what is going on in the world, like what is the purpose of all of this? Why does religion, why does theosophy, why is it the same groups that control all of these things? What's their goal? What are they trying to do? What's this existence really about? Why do we have this going on? Well, you read that scripture.
Yeah.
From Psalms.
Yeah, plotting together.
Plotting against God.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what other religions teach, once you find out about the controllers, who, it's not a matter of who has the money. No, the ones who produce the money, the ones that own everything and can control our reality. Media is huge. Media controls our view of the entire world. Whether we read it in a magazine, television, or learn it in school. There's the word they again. They have told us how to view life. You know. So when you figure out who's controlling things and who owns everything, the Zionist, Jesuit, you know, theosophy religions, like you said, you have all these different groups, but they all basically believe in the same thing, the Kabbalah. Then at the bottom of the rabbit hole, that's what you're looking at. They're controlling even which Jesus. It's like, you know, they're trying to hide the real Jesus. And they want you to believe the esoteric.
That's like the last yes or no question you come to. Is like, okay, you got it, you almost got it. I mean, you're right there.
I have one.
Like, he says the last trick, you know, the trickiest trick
He's
for the
desperate
very
at
last
that point.
part, you know?
Yeah, Satan is desperate at that point. It's like, oh man.
I gotta mess with him somehow. What is the last thing I could possibly throw at them, and that's it.
Exactly. So, at the bottom of my rabbit hole, what did I find? Well, I was convinced, and I've said this before, even though I was convinced that, you know, this evil is orchestrated chaos. It looks chaotic, but it's really not. Even once I learned that, I did not immediately come running to God. So it's not like I was looking at this to try to prove, you know, God to me. You know, because I remember, you know, when we were talking, I knew something was going on. So it's not like I was trying to make all this stuff fit in. First, right? Okay. But then I realized, I learned that Satan was real when I started to see all these patterns. And that's what I needed to see. Because I was interested in it, and I wanted to see how, you know, why are things the way they are. So here's what I found. And I'm glad you ended the last podcast. You mentioned that Queensryche song. The Child of Fire song. I was at work one day listening to that, and that song came up, and as I said before, I heard those lyrics. You know, born under the darkness of Saturn's rings, or something like that. And that gave me chills, actually. The part about Saturn. Because at that point, I was beginning to learn in theosophy, the dark side of theosophy, they actually worship Saturn.
Okay.
And it's not like,
and there's a lot more that we'll have to explain with that. But
I know. But it's really easy to understand though, because now I know people will say, "Oh, he's been reading a lot of David Icke." You know, I did read David Icke. But it did not stop with David Icke. David Icke is just one guy. In fact, some people think he's a shill. I'm starting to believe that too. Everything he says is so true that it's like, it's almost too true.
But when you say true, you're not talking about like literally true.
No.
You're saying symbolically true.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the overall view. Like, he talks about the controllers worship Saturn. Okay. He's not the only one. I mean, there are...
Well, there is the cult of Saturn.
Yeah, the cult of Saturn. You know, Saturn is very important in theosophy. So it doesn't matter. And like I said, I listen to a lot of podcasts, Christian, non-Christian, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you believe. You may think, oh, worshiping Saturn, that's crazy. That's what these Zionists, theosophy people, that is their religion. And the owners of the United Nations worship Saturn.
And of what significance is Saturn? Because I got some things I could say about it, but what is the significance of Saturn?
Well, here's what happened. I heard that song about Saturn. Then, you know, there was COVID-19.
Yeah.
When Trump I think we've mentioned this before in another podcast, but he put out Operation Warp Speed, and there was the logo, and on that logo is the cube of Saturn.
Yeah.
Not a coincidence.
And what is the cube of Saturn?
Well, yeah, maybe you can explain what that cube is. Okay. I think you're better.
So there's and that's kind of what I was gonna say, is that like Saturn is weird because for one thing, the way it's shaped, with the naked eye, you can see that it looks like an eyeball in the sky because of the way the ring is around it. So it's the only planet that stands out like an eyeball. Okay?
And it's the planet that we talk a lot about other than Mars.
Yeah, I think we visualize, like when we say like planets, like most people, if you just told a person to draw a planet, they draw you Saturn.
Yeah,
because it's just because it's a special planet.
Stands out.
But then on the top of Saturn there is actually it is shaped like a hexagon on the top, on the very top of it. And this is not visible with the naked eye. But it's a hexagon, and you can put the lines in there, and it is a cube. It is a cube.
Yeah, hexagon, when you fold it up, becomes a cube.
Yeah. So you can see it on the top of Saturn there when you look at it through a telescope or when you're through satellite images or whatever. So there's the cube idea, and you see this throughout Kabbalism. You see the cubes on the foreheads. Very and the
prominent.
Yeah.
And so, and I know we've talked about it probably in another podcast, some of the stuff where I'm just repeating so we can see where I'm going with this. But like you mentioned, the cube of Saturn, so you had that, and then I found that the Israelis released that coin that was dedicated to Donald Trump, and basically it's the New World Order all in one coin.
Yeah.
And it ends with Saturn. So it's like, what is going on here with Saturn? And so then I started looking at logos, modern logos. It's not just one logo, corporate logo, or two corporate logos that have Saturn. Just about all major logos have Saturn. I mean, everything from Microsoft, SanDisk, Bud Light. I mean, they all have the rings of Saturn. Even Nike, that little thing that we thought was a check mark, it's the edge of the ring of Saturn. You'll find it in everything. I mean, medicine, Saturn. It's like one podcast that I listened to, that same guy I was talking about who mentions what do they do? Go through the Illuminati window? Yeah. Same thing with Saturn. I mean, what? Do people sit around the table, the ones designing this stuff, do they say, hey, let's do something original. Let's put some Saturn rings around here. No,
no.
There's a reason why all of these things are Saturn.
Yeah.
And then you find those cubes, Denmark, and giant cubes of Saturn. Okay. So you have all of this. Then I was listening to that Queensryche song. And the Queensryche song, I mean, it doesn't matter if you believe any of this that we're talking about. But the album, in that album, that Child of Fire, they're the controllers. The ones, it's an allegorical song, but they were born under Saturn's sight.
Yeah.
So you see this Saturn everywhere. I mean, like I said, even the Operation Warp Speed is prominent. It's and then I said the coronavirus in there has the triangles all over it as well. It's not even a real virus.
This is actually just a side point, but do you remember there was a big deal in the news, and I showed you this because it stood out to me. Was I was scrolling through the news articles when the My Pillow, is that what it is? The My Pillow guy went and visited Donald Trump.
My Pillow, yes.
So the My Pillow, that was like a big deal this last year, was when that guy visited Trump, and everybody was like, oh, why is that guy visiting Trump? It doesn't make any sense. But I saw a news article and I zoomed in. You can see it. There's a picture of the guy holding papers, and in his hand there is a ring on his hand, and the logo on his ring is the alchemical symbol for Saturn. And
yes,
and it's like,
I didn't realize that.
This is and I still have the picture on my phone, so I can show anybody. I'll show you, but it is very clear. It is that, and like, who else but the cult? I mean, sure, there could be another reason, but like, that strikes me as like,
well, you find
that's
it
cult
everywhere.
of Saturn.
It's just like all those other things that we said are in films.
Yeah.
You find Saturn everywhere, but Saturn's very dominant. I mean, as far as like logos and all that.
Yeah.
It's so easily provable. I've shown even Roundup.
Yeah.
Has the ring of Saturn, and then you start. I know this seems like it's going off from Saturn, but it's really not. When you start looking at all of the symbols for like Google Play, the symbol is the sign of Saturn or Satan.
Yeah.
And that's where this is going. Here, I'm going to touch on that in just a second. You also have Chrome, which is Kronos, which is the divine sign of the king, 666. That is what it is. People can not believe it, that there's something's going on or not. That I don't care. That is what it is.
And what do you mean by you just mean like the logo?
Yeah, just the picture itself.
Okay.
It's a true occultic symbol.
Okay.
And actually, I know people. I used to not believe this stuff because people would talk about patterns. Like if you look at the Chrome pattern, it is 666.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right?
Yeah.
And people think, oh, you're just seeing things. No, Kronos is, well, that's a god.
Yeah.
And that really is the divine. It doesn't matter if you understand like what it's for.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. It's the divine sign of the king, 666. And then you have Facebook, the logo. It is the tubal cane. Now, what is tubal cane? We don't even have to go there, but it ties in with Freemasonry.
Yeah.
The Google email, Google Mail, Gmail.
Yeah.
That is the Masonic apron, and you'll see that apron worn by Freemasons in all their photos.
Yeah.
So you have all this connection between Satan, and then you have all these other things, Saturn. Well, the Google Play sign, like the sign of Satan, we call it Satan, but it's actually Saturn. And that's where I'm going with this.
Is that
here? I was thinking I found Satan.
Yeah.
And wow, if Satan's real, man, Ephesians, this war is truly against Satan. I mean, that's what's happening here. And if Satan is real, and I'm seeing all of the supernatural manifestation of things which man cannot orchestrate, I figured, God must be real too.
Yeah.
So here I'm at the bottom of the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I have found what I think is Satan.
Yeah.
But what am I presented with? Saturn.
Yeah.
So I'm finding Saturn everywhere. So now you go back and you listen to stuff like that talk about theosophy, like the esoteric Jesus and all that stuff. And they also are talking about the esoteric Satan.
Yeah.
These same channels.
Yeah.
The esoteric Satan is Saturn.
Yeah.
Saturn means opposer.
Okay.
Satan means opposer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's obvious. Saturn, Satan. I mean, you can see it, right? Then you had, and Christmas really indicates this. I know it's a hard subject for many to admit.
But Saturnalia.
Christmas, December 25th. We've always been told this. You can look it up, that is not the real birth day of Christ.
Yeah.
It was moved to that day because that tied in with the Roman worship. It was Saturnalia, like you said. Why is that so dominant today? Because Saturn. Again.
And it was a symbol of like the darkness.
Yes.
Because it was the winter equinox.
Exactly.
Or what, solstice? I can't remember. Yeah. It's one of those. I think.
But I know what you're talking about. Yeah, which is going to tie in with what I'm saying here. Is that, and then you have Santa, who's like you said, that's an amalgam.
Anagram.
Anagram.
Yeah.
Not
anagram.
Anagram. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. And I know it sounds
it's an anagram
silly.
for
it sounds
Saturn.
Satan,
or Satan or Saturn. I mean, but we say Satan, but they're saying Saturn.
Yeah.
So it's the esoteric Satan.
Yeah.
So I have to figure out, is this just the worship of Saturn?
Well, and that's what I was going to point out, but I didn't know
Satan?
where it would fit in, but it just, when you were talking about all this, it reminded me of I don't know if you'll remember this, but there was one guy, I sent you a couple of his videos, and like, in a lot of ways, he sounded like a lunatic to me. But like,
which
there was something that I'm like, okay,
which
like,
video was
I was trying to understand what he was saying. He was like kind of like a nerdy guy with glasses, and he was talking about the Sumerian gods.
Okay.
And he used to be a Mormon. And he was talking about Enlil and Enki.
Okay.
And he was trying to say that Yahweh or Jehovah was Enki, I think. And that there was another god, Enlil, and that there was like all these... Like, he was basically saying, yes, Yahweh is a god. And Jesus represents the true higher god, which is not Yahweh. Okay. But Yahweh is in a pantheon of real gods. And that they call Yahweh by a different name depending on which religion it is. And like basically his idea was... And I'm trying to say this in a way that's not so confusing, but even in the occult, which is the mysteries, okay, you like there's like two schools in this entire occult, which is the profane occult and the esoteric occult.
Yes.
So you have people that want to be occultists. And so what they think they're like the wannabes. What they do is they
like
say
the teenagers.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I actually worship Zeus, or here I actually am gonna worship, you know, just any pagan god. Here, oh yeah, I'm gonna worship Quetzalcoatl. Okay, so here you got. There are those people that believe that those pagan gods are real.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's true, like even of ancient times. I agree with that.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I agree with the pod. Well, you said he talks about that, right? This guy?
He doesn't talk. He talks about them as though they are real profanely. So he is. He does not believe in the esoteric. Like, he doesn't believe that these things are symbolic. What he's saying
Does he actually say that, or is that just an assumption you can make about him?
He doesn't understand. So a lot of these people that say those that talk about these gods as though they're real, they just don't have that understanding that like that's the next part of what I'm going to say is that like when I was researching when I listened to a lot of the Freemasonry stuff, what they were talking about is like there's two schools of thought, even dating back to these ancient cultures. You have the priestly class that understood all of these pantheon of gods. Yes, they may have viewed them valuably. Some of them may have even viewed them as real, but they always understood the esoteric value of them.
Yes.
Whereas and then the regular people, they were just given the profane version.
So, and that's what we're taught in school. See, we're taught
that everyone just believed in these gods.
Yeah, you know, that's a bunch of garbage that we are taught in school. Because what the schools like to teach us today is that we're the intelligent ones. Everybody, since ancient times, they're just stupid people that believed in all these gods, you know, Zeus and stuff. And that's true.
Yeah.
People did believe in that, but not everyone.
Yeah.
It's because, like you said, the priests.
Yeah.
They knew that Horus.
Yeah.
Wasn't really Horus.
Yeah.
It was sun.
Actually a symbol for something like a symbolic meaning.
Divine
for your life, like a concept more than an actual being, you know? It wasn't to them that's not what it was.
Exactly. So, it was something whereas the other people they were taught the profane. So they actually bowed down to Horus. They would pray to Horus.
Yeah.
You can even see it in the Bible. You know, they prayed to the sun god.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening here is that, and I think Crow 777 talks about the same thing. That's a podcast I really enjoy because the research done in that podcast. He said the same thing. That's what he believes, that these people were taught the profane.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't even, maybe not even all of them believed in profane. We're just told that in school. You know, a lot of these people may have bowed down to these images, not thinking of the image itself being powerful, but what it represents as well.
Yes,
he talks about that too. Yeah. So what has happened is, what happened to me was, again, I seen Saturn or Satan. Now, why Saturn? What does Saturn represent in the dark occult? And I've read many things about this. I've listened to many things, so it's not just coming from one person. Because this is what they believe. In the dark occult of theosophy, Saturn, and it doesn't matter what's true, what's not true, doesn't matter. They believe that there were two suns for the Earth. You had the sun, as we see today, and you had Saturn. And Saturn is no longer the dominant sun. So they call it the darkened sun. It's the blackened sun, Saturn.
I see.
Yeah. And so that, the Saturn then is the symbol for the dark occult.
Yeah.
And so what I began to see, not just from the, I mean, we've already talked about many things that show, see a pattern of Satan's hand in matters. But when you start looking around, you can really see Saturn is very prominent, and now it's more prominent than ever. Like I said, as soon as Trump put out that, or as soon as that, Operation Warp Speed logo came out, and then you had the Israeli coin, it's really coming to the forefront. What's happening here. The Zionists, the Jesuits, all that, the dark occult, that literally owns everything.
Yeah.
They worship Saturn. So how did I figure out, is it Saturn or is it Satan? Which is true?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And where was I going to go with that? I had a thought and I think I lost it, but.
Well, I was, what I did was, it kind of went back to the Jesus thing.
Yeah.
When you called me up with that scripture, that same scripture, it did the same thing with Satan for me. Because if Jesus is literal and was a physical man that walked the earth, Jesus was the physical man that said, "Go away, Satan." And
that's right.
And then Paul talks about Satan walking about like a roaring lion. Well, here's what's strange though. Now I don't know why this creeps me out, or it's really creepy. I don't know when you think about it. So I came to see Satan as the Satan of the Bible. However, his logo is Saturn. So.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying like his symbol is Saturn.
His symbol is Saturn.
Yeah.
It's esoteric.
It's kind of like, okay, and this is that's what my thought was that you were talking about how in the dark occult here you have Saturn, which is the darkened sun, and then you have the sun.
And they don't really worship Satan either. I mean, okay, I'll get into that later. You finish your thought.
Yeah, so like, you have Saturn, the darkened sun, and then you have the real sun, which to them, and like they'll say this thing like, oh yeah, Jesus sometimes they'll say Jesus actually, when they're saying the Son of God, S-O-N, they're actually talking about the S-U-N, and they're using Jesus as a metaphor for the actual sun in the sky.
And they are.
And, well, no, actually just the opposite. So they're not using Jesus as a metaphor.
No.
I'm just saying, like, that's the truth is not that. See, they're getting it completely the opposite. They're saying that Jesus is the representative of the sun,
the S-U-N,
of the S-U-N.
Yes.
Whereas what I'm saying is that the pattern in reality is actually that the sun represents Jesus.
Yes.
And then, so in the dark occult, you have the blackened sun.
Yeah, I see when you're saying the real sun, S-U-N, represents, did you say Jesus?
Yes.
Yes, because that is why Jesus kept saying, I am the true light.
Yeah.
I am the light of this world.
Yeah.
He's always called the light, and light is all around God all the time.
Light creates life.
Yes.
You have and even this idea that and I know they'll say it's Venus because he's called phosphorus in the Greek, but like it just says dawnbringer, which is what Venus means, dawnbringer. because it's called the morning star. It's the dawn.
Jesus
but it's
is
like,
called the morning star.
But it's like the sun is the dawn. It like here's the the dawn is here.
The beginning of a new day.
Yeah, like
a new age.
So like when the world is the darkest here, there will be a dawn, and Jesus is coming. Like
He's the morning star.
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. I never really looked at it that way. You know, it's the opposite, but that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sun.
Because they're sun worshipers.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Whether it's the dark occult, see, the dark occult worships the sun, S-U-N. I mean, in the solar system.
Yeah.
It represents their divine entity, whatever that is. Because in Masonry, they have to accept a divine source.
Yeah.
Well, so they worship that.
Not all of them do, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have the dark occult. They're worshiping Saturn, the darkened sun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's interesting about that is that, but you'll find, you'll find the S-U-N, the sun, and Saturn. You'll find that all over as well. It's not just the cube of Saturn, because you've got to remember, they believe Saturn is the sun. It is like they worship the sun. So they believe it, they take it as like the real sun.
Yeah.
The dark sun, right? Okay. So that's why you find, even in logos, corporate logos, sometimes you don't find Saturn, but you will find the sun, S-U-N, a lot. Like one day I was driving home, Shell station. All my life, all I ever seen was a shell. Mm-hmm. Take a look at it. It's the sunrise, right in the middle.
Yeah.
The sun's coming up and you have the rays. It's like it's the sun.
Yeah.
There is, man, and now I'm thinking of other logos I want to mention.
Yeah.
It's like Chevron. Those are the horns of a goat. I just had to throw that out. Yeah, it's a goat horn. That's for real.
Huh.
That's what Chevron is. It's a goat. It's again, another occultic symbol.
Huh.
And then, so let's see, where was I going with this? With the sun. Yeah, so I began to see that when you read that scripture to me about Jesus, then I began to see that, no, they say they worship the darkened sun, but they actually worship Satan. And, going back, his logo. That's what I wanted to say, his logo, being Saturn. The reason why that's creepy to me is because now you can actually read the Bible, replace it with the word Saturn, wherever you see Satan, and it becomes more real. Like when Paul said, watch out, Satan walks about, don't say Satan, Saturn walks about like a roaring lion,
Peter,
seeking to devour someone. Yep.
You said Paul, but...
Or I meant.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he walks around like, so just say Saturn instead of Satan. And then it becomes like, Saturn is everywhere. Yeah. Saturn is what's really controlling the whole thing.
And I remember I told you about this before, but even that scripture, it's funny if you replace Satan with Saturn there, because in Greek mythology, Saturn devoured his own children. So Satan is walking around like a roaring lion seeking to devour someone. Yes. And then, Peter probably knew about what the Greeks believed about like Saturn. So like this thought of devouring people. Saturn was willing to eat his own children. So it's a fitting comparison here. Like if you're taking this as like an esoteric value of their myth, like yes, Satan devours his own children.
Yes. So you can see then, I drew the conclusion then that to believe that it's simply Saturn, that was the trap. Yeah. Satan is a real entity, and the Bible describes him in that way. And also, too, I was going to go somewhere with this.
I'm thinking this is kind of a little bit off, but from what we're talking about, but when you're looking at like some of these things that are you may just think of anything. It may be like anything that relates to the sun. Like if you look at through this lens of like Jesus, like how to like think of anything with the sun. How does this relate to Jesus just in our daily life? A lot of times you'll find some weird symbolic comparisons between the sun and Jesus. for example, I don't want to get us way too off track, but
no, mention it.
But like when we were talking about when God made the sun, and then he made the greater luminary for the day and the lesser luminary for the night. And Jesus said, like, that the daylight was with them. Well, he was there with them. And then there's going to be a nighttime. So after Jesus left, there was night. And God made the lesser luminary for the night. And remember the moon. The moon reflects the glory of the sun. And so the SUN is just like the SON. It reflects the moon, which the moon actually represents the bride of Christ, or Israel, who is the wife of Jesus Christ.
Now, how did you draw that conclusion? That's interesting.
Because think about it, just symbolically, the moon reflects like Jesus said we are his representatives on earth.
Yeah.
We're reflecting the glory of Jesus.
Oh, I see.
The church is reflecting the glory of Jesus during the earth's dark night.
You know what's funny is that
and when the sun dawns, we will no longer need to be that beacon of light, because Jesus said we're beacons of light.
You know, all of that ties in.
Because we have no light of our own. We only reflect his glory.
Yes. Now, you know, even if you drew that conclusion on your own.
I did draw that conclusion on my own.
You can't argue it.
No, I mean,
because even from a from an analogy standpoint, it matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think that the moon is a representative of us, not the opposite way around.
That's why it's so nice to be out of organized religion like the Watchtower, because you begin to see things differently. Like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can like draw conclusions.
Yeah.
By digging in. I mean, because you went down this hole with esoteric and theosophy and everything, you begin to see basically the ancient world. You begin to see that in the Bible.
Yeah.
You find esoteric things. You find
these symbols, everywhere.
Gematria. You find numerology. You find all of that in the Bible. Yeah. And it's not because the Bible is borrowing from other sources. It's more from, it was, those things meant something in ancient times.
Yeah. Like, kind of like the whole math thing. Like, you know, I mean, like, we were always told, like, numerology is occultic. But, like, okay, God uses numbers to represent things all the time. I mean, the
Math
Jews in Israel, they use these like numbers. They meant words. They meant things to these people. They had a significance. God has always worked that way.
Yeah.
So like numerology, like
it's part of
what is wrong.
It's part of our universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's built in.
Like we talk about, like it is a part of the fabric that God has created, woven this reality.
Yes, math.
So you can't separate them.
Exactly. And it's not math like we can understand either. I mean, we're talking math that goes beyond a normal intellect.
Yeah. Yeah. And like
sacred geometry is just
so like
can't even begin to go there.
What is wrong with numerology? Well, trying to tell the future, trying to use divination with numerology.
And that's one thing I want to talk about, because this podcast will probably be broken into 3 or 4 parts, because everything we're talking about right now, like what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll have to go back to that one.
But you see the gematria, I think I always go back to the number 4 in the Bible.
Yeah.
To me, that's the most obvious, because 4 in gematria means death or judgment.
Yeah.
And you see that throughout the Bible. Jesus tested for 40 days, 40 nights. Israel out in the wilderness for 40 years. Noah in the flood, 40 days, 40 nights. That's gematria.
Yeah.
Why isn't it, 34 days, 35 days? No, it's 40.
Yeah, you see the 12s, the 7s, the 40s.
The 6s.
The 6s.
Oh, yeah, 666. That's a good example. See, that wasn't a number that God just pulled out of nowhere, like, oh, let's just give this a number 666.
Yeah.
666 is part of the reality, like you said.
Yeah, the number of a man.
It's part of the universe.
And man was created on the sixth day.
Sixth day, so you mentioned that.
Yeah. So,
carbon molecule.
Yeah.
6 atoms, and we are carbon-based. I mean, it... See, this is the kind of stuff that people, once they learn, this is the kind of things that have awakened even atheists.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those whoa moments, like, what is going on?
And there's just like so many weird, like, there's so many things that we could just say that are just one-off things that are like, I mean, not one of those things you might be like, oh, that's it. But like, it's enough to be like, man, that's super weird. Man, that's super weird. Like
one thing after another.
For example, like Jachin and Boaz, like, I mean.
Oh yeah, those 2 pillars in the temple.
Those pillars, you know, they're 23 cubits high.
Yeah.
And there's 2 pillars, and you have, like, your body is the temple, and you have DNA, and there are 23 chromosomes from each of your parents.
Oh wow.
So I mean, like, it's not one of those things where you're like, that's it. Like, it could be a coincidence, but I personally don't believe God works in coincidence.
It's all. We live, there's a fine line between our physical world and the spiritual world.
Yeah.
And there is so much supernatural things woven into our reality that we can't even begin to explain or understand. But it has to do with math.
Yeah.
It has to do with how God built things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And going back to what we were talking about the sun and Saturn and everything, I mean, like I mentioned to you about the sun, just this idea that we, like humans naturally, we're supposed to tell time by the sun. And like, instead of telling time by the sun, we have created these artificial devices that keep us from looking at the sun.
Yeah. Crow 777, I encourage people to go back, start from the very beginning, and even get a subscription for a while just so you can listen to part 2. It's like 2 or 3 hour episodes he talks about that.
Yeah, and like just in the same way that we have created this artificial way of telling time, instead of looking at the sun, so this world has created an artificial
clock
system that we need to look at instead of looking at Jesus, the Son of God.
See, that is so strange because here's what's strange about that. I know people listening to you might think this is crazy.
Oh yeah, they'll probably think I'm a whack.
However, the dark occult, think about what they're doing.
Yeah.
They worship Saturn. They're trying to draw your attention away from the sun.
Yeah.
The sun.
Yeah.
And then, of course, esoterically, that all ties in with Jesus and everything.
Yeah.
It's very... Yeah, because they're trying... What the dark occult is doing, the worshippers of Saturn, they're trying to distract you from the esoteric Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. And that's their purpose. Well, here's what... If you study Satanism and, everything that happens... What you learn is that nowhere in history, for the most part, very few people actually worship Satan directly.
Yeah.
There are some that do, and a lot of teenagers, they worship Satan.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it worked. Satan always manifested himself as something else.
Yeah.
So when people worshipped Molech...
Except for in recent times.
Yeah, in recent times. But even then, people a lot of times...
I think we'll get into that one later.
Yeah. But like in the Bible in Jeremiah, when people were... when the women were burning their babies to Molech.
Yeah.
That was Satanism.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say, no, it's not Satanism, it's Molech.
Yeah.
No, it was Satanism. So the controllers today, if you look at their behavior, we talk about Bohemian Grove. The cremation of care. And when you study all of these, there's a lot of events in the world we can't get into, but they are satanic rituals. And when you look at the gematria, when you look at all of the symbolism that's in them, excuse me, that these are Satanists. I mean,
real.
Now, I'm not saying this is true, but what I'm saying is there's a reason why it's out there.
Yeah.
Why does Bill Gates, he's always put in the media, there's a lot of articles that say he wants to darken the sun. He wants to block the sun. Now, it doesn't matter if it's true, not true. Why does mainstream media, and I mean, we're talking NBC, we're talking ABC. They're telling you what
they're telling you the esoteric truth.
That's what I think. I think that you have people out here saying, "Oh, he wants to block the sun," because the articles will tell you that Bill Gates wants to fill the atmosphere with chalk,
and everybody's
all this stuff.
seen that stuff now.
I believe that's the profane.
Yes,
I believe that's a story where people are like, "Oh,
and they get a kick." I believe that some people get a kick out of having these people run around worried about Bill Gates blocking the actual sun.
Yes,
when there is a problem with them really
blocking
the
esoteric sun.
Yeah, when you're blocking the real Son of God, and that's your actual ploy, and you're laughing because you think that these people are so stupid.
And it may be in their heads of these controllers.
Yeah.
You got the worshipers of Saturn, and then you got the light theosophy, right? The good stuff, right? It's funny, the good theosophy doesn't even exist. That's only in theory.
Well, it's two sides of the same coin.
But it doesn't really exist. It does exist, but almost like as individuals, but not as a whole.
Yeah, not as an organized group.
No, all the organizations are connected with Saturn, and the whole system is, which is Satan in the Bible, which makes it very clear now that all kingdoms. That's why God says he's going to destroy all kingdoms of the world.
Yeah.
Because they are all products of Satan. But I find that fascinating now. Because once you understand the meaning in theosophy, what profane means and what esoteric means, you almost begin to see what they're doing. I totally believe about the blocking of the sun. What they're thinking esoteric, you're thinking real. Kind of like who knows what's going on with a lot of these NASA missions, Mars and stuff. It could be connected with other esoteric things too. Mars is the god of war. It's a very important god in theosophy.
Yeah.
It could be all ritualistic, have meanings that we don't even know. Or like Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
These people are Satanists. The controllers may, give this impression that it has to do with Saturn, but no. What they're doing in Bohemian Grove is a symbolic act of what happened in Jeremiah. Don't you find that interesting? That's a prominent scripture in Jeremiah.
Yeah.
That they would burn their children to Molech, and God said, "It is not a thing that came into my heart."
Mm-hmm.
That's a prominent. The Bible doesn't say a whole lot about other gods the way that's written.
Yeah.
And yet, they prominently burn a baby doll at the feet of Molech.
Yeah.
A huge owl-like god.
And it's quite an odd out of these thousands of years of history. Why choose a Canaanite god?
Oh, that's interesting too, because where did the Canaanites originate?
Yeah.
They came from the Nephilim.
That's right.
Yeah, you can even see that in the Bible. Remember when Moses, he sent spies into the land? To the Canaanites? What do you call it?
I'm trying to think of the name.
Where he sent them?
No. They called them the giants. They called them the Nephilim, but I want to say
The Amalekites? No,
not the
Amalek.
Yeah,
No?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
I'll remember.
I just remember in the Bible when they came back, they said they were giants in the earth, and
they did call them Nephilim.
Yeah,
but
in English, it would be giants, but I think you're right.
Yeah,
it probably was Nephilim, and that's where the Nephilim. They were actually ancestors, or not? Descendants.
Yeah.
Descendants of the Nephilim. Yeah, so. And people might think, well, you guys are just crazy. But we're not alone in this.
Yeah.
Many people are seeing this, and it all goes back. If you don't know anything, if all you know is Bohemian Grove, people could look at you and me and say, you guys are nuts, right?
Yeah.
What about Bohemian Grove? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And it's real.
Yeah.
So explain that to me.
Yeah.
They can't. You can only go two ways with that. You can either ignore it and say, oh, yeah, we don't understand, who cares? Or you can ask yourself, why? Begin to see what's happening in the world. And
this is actually, this is kind of, I got to go back for a second because I just thought of something weird. And I've never posed this question to you, but because of a different conversation we had earlier, we were talking about the blackened sun and then the real sun.
Yeah.
So you have, if you take that as SON, okay, you have the sun that went bad, like the bad sun, and then you have the good sun. And some people would say that has to do with, well, like off the top of your head, you'd think like Satan, Jesus, right? But something just clicked with me because we had been talking about the similarities between Adam and Jesus.
Oh, I never thought about that.
And
that's interesting. That's actually more. That's probably what it means, huh?
What if, because it's man, number of a man, you got the Saturn cube, the 666.
That is man. That is the essence of man without spirituality.
Yeah.
It's the profane man, like the carnal
darkened sun. The blackened sun just represents men who reject
God
and Jesus.
Yeah, because it's easy to think it's Jesus, the sun, versus the darkened sun, Satan, which Saturn does mean Satan, or opposer. However, it could have like a double meaning.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I never...
Man, that's the craziness.
I mean, now, I don't know. I just thought of that.
Well, actually, indirectly, that's true.
Yeah.
Because the Bible says that Satan has servants.
Yeah.
You know, and he has convinced them that they have the truth, the light.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could be exactly. It could mean that for sure.
Weird.
But the bottom line is, you went down the rabbit hole and you found Jesus, the real Jesus. I went down the rabbit hole, and I found the real Satan, and it has changed my life. What I have learned from all of this, and I keep learning more and more, is that we live, as we've said, in a supernatural spiritual world that we have never seen before with our own eyes until now. And that is what's happening worldwide. A lot of people, I'm going to go back to that Eastern thought, the Great Awakening has a lot to do with that, is that we're beginning to see that our lives are fake, they're artificial, we've been controlled, and the physical world is actually less real than the spiritual world.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've talked about all of these songs, right? Albums, music lyrics, movies. Yeah. They've been telling us this.
Yeah. We barely scratched the surface of things.
I do want to mention, though, that one song, the satanic group Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when I was into the spiritistic stuff, that became one of my favorite groups. I mean, I could not stop listening to their stuff. And they are like truly satanic. I mean, they have songs. And actually, I didn't listen to these songs as much because I have to say, Satan still, there's something in the back of my mind that says something's not right with Satan. Even though I wanted to view Satan as like just dark mysteries and stuff. Yeah. They have songs that are actually anthems to Satan.
I've seen them, yeah.
So, and they actually talk about Satan, Lucifer, worshiping him, you know, how he's wonderful and all this stuff.
Yeah.
However, in their music, what you learn is, one, all these guys are 33rd degree Masons, like, big time. These guys are 33rd degree Masons, like major. And they have this song called Square Hammer. And I was addicted to it. In fact, I can't, even today, I can't keep talking. I can't listen to Ghost. I can't even get a song started because then I can't stop. But they have a song called Square Hammer. And when you first listen to it, it's about... You think, it is about a satanic ritual where someone's being put into a coffin and they're nailing it shut.
Yeah, profanely.
And you start to hear chimes ringing. Okay, so all of this is happening. And in the song, it says that the person begins to scream and cry because now they want entrance to the shrine. Now, a shrine is the spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
And they want powers from that spirituality. Now, in the song, it's talking about theosophy, those powers. It's not talking about... the Bible. But that's not the point. The point is, now they want entrance to the shrine, and in the song, the one doing the nailing and the coffin and all of that, he is saying, it's too late for that. You should have believed that earlier. Now it's too late. You have lived this profane, fleshly, earthly life. And now now that you're suffering, you want entrance into the shrine. Well, it's too late for you. Yeah. Well, that's the ritual going on there. But then in the chorus, he starts singing to you, and he says, are you on the square?
Yeah.
Are you on the run?
Because the square is a representative of the profane, or the like the physical,
the two-dimensional,
the material, the physical, the profane. These are all the same, and they're represented by the square.
Yeah.
Whereas
these
the
are the guys,
is the heavenly, spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though it's Masonic, the point is the controllers don't believe. They believe there's something greater than this. Whether it's dark and evil, it doesn't matter. They don't. They believe that this is the profane plane. And that there is something greater that people are not seeking.
Yeah.
And they're not seeking it now. And that's the great awakening now, is that there's a lot of people now seeking spirituality. In fact, even since COVID came out, a lot of people have awakened.
Yeah.
I mean, just since that incident, they've realized something's going on, especially now. You got talking about all these new variants and all this stuff. People are waking up to what's really going on here. Well, so you have, and that's what's happening today, is that I began to see things even in songs that show that spirituality is important, even in that dark song, right?
Yeah.
That the controllers, they're the ones saying, are you on the square?
Yeah.
And the honest truth is, what are most people living for? 4th of July.
Yeah.
The barbecue that Biden talks about, he spoke about that before, if you just take the vaccine, just get the jab, trust the science, and then you can enjoy that barbecue. You can enjoy the football. You can enjoy baseball. You can enjoy all this nonsense. That's the square. And people will do anything to be on that square. I mean, literally, they seek out the square.
Well, isn't it hip to be square?
Oh, there you go. Don't get me started. See, that's another thing. See, that's another song out there. We listen to that song. Yeah, we think, oh, it's hip to be square. No, it's not.
Yeah,
they're making fun of you.
Yeah.
It's is it? Or look at Madonna's song, "Material."
Oh yeah,
girl living in a material world.
Yeah,
that is what is thrown in our face day and night. I mean, you can see it from world leaders. I mean, look, what the governor of New York is like trying to sell a vaccine using free fries. I mean, that's how dumbed down people are. Yeah. People will sacrifice their soul and take chances just to get free fries.
Yeah, and doesn't it? I mean, it's almost as if, and I've seen this compared too, but it's almost as if they've taken this material world, this profane world, and they've made a religion out of it. They've actually made it into their spirituality, which is like,
it's the profane of the spiritual.
It's like okay, a guy loves football. A guy loves football. His religious experience is sitting in front of his TV and watching football every week.
Isn't that true? That's all they talk about.
That's their religious experience. And just reminds me of not only is it vanity, it's foolishness for one. And I'll go back to that word foolishness, but it reminds me of what Jesus said when he said, if the light of your eye is darkness, how great that darkness is. So these people, if you're spiritual, if the light of your eye, your spirituality is something material, that's a great darkness.
I love that scripture, because I remember when I first learned, just you quoting that.
Yeah.
I remember now the first time I learned or meditated on what he was saying.
Yeah.
Because if the light within you is darkness.
Yeah.
How great the darkness is. It's almost you can't penetrate it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're seeing today is you can't penetrate.
Yeah.
Through people.
They're so hardened and
what's
darkened.
Going on. Yeah, because they see it as light.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what we're seeing with the whole New World Order. Love.
Or this rise in over sexuality. It's applauded. It's encouraged because that's your expression, and it's
and love. This love all, no matter what. They don't understand the meaning of love.
Yeah, and no matter and with that word, when I said it's foolishness, I mean, if you go to the Hebrew and look up what the word fool is, it's evil.
Is that what fool means?
It literally is evel. In Hebrew,
Really?
Fool.
Wow. I never do that.
Fool is translated. It's evel. That's how you say fool.
That explains
Israel.
then. That explains something because I could never understood.
That's why everything foolish is evil.
Yeah, and that's why Jesus said, "Whoever calls someone a despicable fool is liable for Gehenna." He wasn't just.
I never even connected
because
that thought.
he's talking about a judgment. You're not just calling somebody stupid.
You're evil.
Yeah.
Ah, I am so happy that you even connected
Well, that just popped in my head. So it's a judgment call because, okay, for example, the Bible condemns a lot of sexual acts that are applauded today.
Yeah.
And you can condemn those acts as much as you want because the Bible tells us they are wrong. You can condemn the entire pansexual, transsexual, whatever.
Demisexual.
Yeah, all the nonsense of today. You can condemn all of that.
Yeah.
But you can't go up to someone and say, "You're evil."
Yeah.
Because it's their actions.
Yeah, and no matter what.
And you can't feel that way in your heart. I mean, I know as a witness, you kind of had a tendency to like.
Oh yeah, you judging people.
Oh yeah, you judged. I mean, if you dealt with like
Oh yeah.
any of these sexual things, you go into a perfume store, your wife, girlfriend, and some guy comes out who's not quite what you are.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, gross. I don't want nothing to do with them. Now it's more like, yes, I don't agree with their lifestyle at all.
Yeah.
But are they treating me well?
Yeah, and
it does take effort to filter that out, but that's what Jesus.
And I guess it's that matter of like, I would say that you were just really quick to say they're gonna be barbecued here pretty soon. Like, I mean, that's what Jesus is condemning is not saying that their actions are evil, but saying that they are evil. I'm not saying they are evil. I'm saying their actions are evil.
Yeah, their actions are evil.
And it is up to...
Now I'm going to read the word fool. Now that you told me that, I'm going to be looking in Proverbs, and it's going to give a whole different meaning to them.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds you...
Man. The evil
Actually,
man.
that reminds me now of the Fool card. The tarot card.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if there's some significance there. I'd have to...
We'd have to find out the original language of that. But anyway, that I find all of this, what I have discovered is that we talked about movies and music, and I've seen all of this symbology about Saturn and everything, and now I'm seeing that we truly are in a spiritual, dark world right now. And that is the whole goal. Like you said, you read that scripture from Psalms. The goal is to get rid of God.
Yeah.
They want nothing to do with God and his anointed one. To them, that's restrictions. They don't want that. They want to be free love, free everything. And it's just disgusting. It's a conspiracy, and that's what the Bible is saying.
I feel like I just connected a huge point in my head, which I think we should talk about next.
What's that?
But but we'd almost have to save it for another podcast.
Oh, no, we will, but I'm just curious.
It just made me think when I was talking about, turning the spiritual world into a physical world. Okay? So you're turning the spiritual world into the physical world, but then we've also created a fake spiritual world, which is our digital world. So we actually live in the digital world, but our material world is our spiritual world.
It has become our spiritual world.
But we actually live in our digital world. I'm thinking that our real existence, now not everyone, because obviously I don't have like a digital, I don't have all these things, but it's almost as if they're trying to make it so that our real self is in the digital world. Oh, that is actually the real world. Because remember, I talked about the spiritual world being the digital world, but this is like a whole new can.
But you're not the only one. That's what's funny is you say that, but I've heard other people say the same thing. The digital world is Satan's world.
So here, like, if we go to a concert, if we go to a football game, if we get to enjoy a party with our friends, that's our spiritual experience. And the rest of the time, we live in our digital world.
That is so strange. Because that is all people are doing now, is living in the digital world more than ever before. Okay.
I think we're going
to talk about that.
Yeah.
And that is making me think of songs once again.
I'm sure there's a lot.
I have songs in my head now that are telling us that's exactly what is happening.
Yeah.
And they are songs that were written 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Holy cow. We got to talk about that.
Yeah.
Well.
All right. Well,
so we went to the bottom of the. At least we went down to the bottom of the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And that is, people say the rabbit hole is endless.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Not if you, if you're seeking Christ.
If you look it through a biblical lens.
Yeah, you just have to see what is happening in this world.
Yeah.
Who's controlling it? What's their goal? How are they trying to control it? How are they trying to manipulate you? And what are they trying to distract you from? Even non-Christians will say that they are distracting you from your spiritual side.
Yeah.
They want to turn you into 666, the carnal man that just survives and lives for that barbecue.
Yeah.
You know.
But happy is the man that is conscious of his spiritual need.
Oh wow, that's a good scripture to end it on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll talk. I want to talk more about that.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Seen in the natural doesn't mean that it's factual. As a matter of fact, it's proof for me. Just look at the tool, catch the news. The media's practicing tactics to keep the masses fooled. They're not reporting the facts as true. They're distracting you. I question if they're trying to tap into our fears and paranoias. Cause back to back it is tragic news. If it's not about an outbreak and people contracting new deadly viruses, it's about another cat that shoots up a club, up a bar, had them all out of school. Every other month it's a terrorist attack or two. But when news cameras hit the scene, I see the same cast and crew from other tragedies. They bring the same crisis actors through. Can you blame me if I appear to be leery? You can see it all for yourself. I'm not delirious. Clearly they have something up their sleeves. They're not sincere, and I fear the masses will say it's a conspiracy theory and continue to bow down.